Welcome, guys. This is Jim Collins, and welcome to another episode of Journey to the Pit. This is going to be part 3 of our special guest that we had on last week. Well, actually, the week before, but this is going to be part 2 of AK-47 interview. The great thing about this interview, if you have not seen the second and the first and second interview, they're both on our YouTube channel, so you can go and check those out. But in this interview, it's going to kind of be narrow on topics. Pretty much in this interview, we're going to pretty much just focus on the selection process and the difference in each countries from Mexico, Philippines, and what they look for in the United States back when it was legal. There is 3 different selection processes because of the countries, the climates, the resources, the talents, the knowledge. I mean, just a wide array. The great thing about having AK on this evening is he's one of the few people that has competed in all 3 countries at the top level, top of Philippines, top in Mexico, and also the top in the US back when it was legal. That's where it all started, back in the United States. So, guys, just give a warm welcome to AK-47 for coming back for part 3. So, AK, I greatly appreciate you coming on again, man, for part 3 to continue sharing your knowledge with us, man. So, welcome to the show this evening.
No problem. Like I say, I'm always, happy to talk about chickens, and it's my life. I don't have any other hobbies, so
Right. So listen, Clark, it's a lot of people that's been waiting for this. They have been sending a lot of message about this, these type of things. So I really wanted to kind of focus on, because our last interview, we kind of touched on a bunch of different topics. This interview probably won't be as long because we're just going to focus on the selection process. But what I would like to do is I would like to talk about the selection process kind of, I ain't gonna say from biddies, but from, younger chicks on up. I don't want to kind of start when they're already old, getting selected for a show and all that kind of stuff. I want to kind of walk through this on 3 different countries and kind of what you be looking for when they're young stags and stuff like that, attitudes, builds, and all that kind of, the way they eat, if they're the last one to eat, all those different types of things. So I would like to do that on all 3 countries. And we're going to just focus on one country at a time so we don't get all mixed and mangled up. And let's go ahead and start with Mexico, because that's where you're very, very active in the recent years. You've been active, very, very active and very successful down in Mexico. So let's start with Mexico. First, let's put the buggy before the horse. On an end piece, what is required as far as in game foul to compete at a high level? Let's talk about body structure and that type of stuff and characteristics. What is required down there right in these days now to compete successfully in Mexico?
Well, in my opinion, you got to have a medium station. Rooster, he can't be too tall. He can't be too short. Medium station's the best for the short knife.
Okay.
I think a lot of people agrees on that. Everybody's got different opinions on this and that and the other. But, A-seals, Oriental chickens are really dominant over there right now. I've got a few myself.
Okay.
But just intelligent chickens, roosters that are not hot-headed. It don't, they're not shotgun type roosters that just go take off running, across the pit, because you're pitting them at like 20 feet away. They got plenty of time to sidestep you. Get away from you. They'll hit you in the leg, they'll hit you in the neck. Intelligent chickens is winning, and intelligent roosters is always won.
Right.
But especially over there where the pit is so big and they have so much room to maneuver. They're about like Mayweather. They're not. They're kind of boring to watch. For me as an American growing up, we like to get in there and hard nose, knock down, drag it out, fly 6 feet in the air, and do all that. But that style is hard to whoop.
Right. So tell me this, Clark. So has the arenas in Mexico always been that big?
I think they've. I mean, I've been going down there for 12 or 14 years or 15 years or however long it's been, maybe a little bit before that.
Right.
I think they've always been the same. I mean, now I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Right.
But ever since I've been going down there, they pit them from a long ways away. And, it takes an intelligent rooster, like here in the States, the Henry Wortham rules, it's a 8-foot long line, you know, so you're pitting them for more than double, you know, over there. And that's why a lot of people that's went from here to over there in different places, you know, they haven't adjusted real well because, you know, the style of fighting is, you know, completely different, you know.
Got you. So tell me this, Clark, has the style that they're fighting now? I know you said the ACLs are coming in, they fight more, but they're kind of popular because they're fighting a more intelligent type of fight. But tell me this, were the fights in Mexico kind of always like that? Did they ever have the
No,
fight where they flop 6 feet up in the air and
no,
hit the
they
lights up there and
but
all that?
up until well, Butch Williamson is the one that changed the game. You
Mhm,
know, he's a legend in the sport, and he went down there maybe, I don't know exactly the date, how long he's been there, whatever the case, but when he went down there, he was the only, I mean, everybody else was still, you know, as soon as they pitted them, both roosters just run across the pit and
mhm,
broke up, you know.
mhm,
And he was the first one, or the first one that I know about,
mhm,
that made his rooster just stand on the line, you know, and turn him
mhm,
sideways. You know, he just
mhm,
stand there and wait on the other rooster. And, you know, I don't know if they completely copied it from him or the Filipinos, one or the other, but I'm
mhm,
pretty sure, you know, that Butch was the one that created that style down there. And he was just
mhm,
absolutely dominant, whooping everybody, winning everything.
mhm.
And then, you know, just everybody followed suit, you know. And now, you know, it's difficult, you know, because everybody's fighting intelligent roosters, and it's
Mhm.
hard to get, you know, one up on the other.
Right. So tell me this, Clark, with you saying that, um, back then with Butch, and not now, and I don't really want to get a whole bunch on him, but
Mm.
was he using just straight American foul,
Yeah,
or was
that's the thing. Everybody thinks that you have to have an ACL chicken to be intelligent. Roosters spar the way that you learn them to spar. You know, if you heat them up, you know, and peck them
Mhm,
and throw them at each other, they gonna learn to run. But
mhm,
I can take straight hatch roosters, you know,
mhm,
and they'll just stand on the line, you know. But I'll
mm,
back to the brood pen a little bit, and then selecting a few individuals that'll stand there and wait. But they'll all do American chickens, Oriental chickens. Now, like you say, you know that the Orientals that kind of took over, and now because the Oriental chickens they're not real game.
mhm,
They're not going to come from behind much
mhm,
and win you the fight. Um, you know, class and quality and all that. They've realized that, you know, American chickens are standing wait if you spar them the right way. If you don't peck them and make them mad and all that stuff,
mhm.
they will stand there and adjust to that style. So, you know, all of them will do it. You know, it's just the way that, you know, the preparation.
So basically, part of the style is coming from learned behavior and part brood pen, or is it?
Yes, and it's all about selecting individuals. You know, I was sitting out there collecting eggs today, and you know, I was looking at, you know, each one of my brood cocks and the brood pens. You know, and you know, each brood pen I'm looking for. You know, but say, you know, I'm looking for a little bit of something different. You know, say is the different crosses or whatever the case.
Mhm.
Um, I'm looking for a certain individual that does what I like. You know,
Right.
um, and you know, all the you look back upon history, you know, these certain people that's dominated and still dominating or whatever the case, you know, they've got one or two crosses that, you know, they already know what that bloodline is going to do before the eggs even hatch, you know,
Mhm, mhm,
experienced with their chickens. And it's just, you know, sometimes you just get lucky on individuals because you can look at him and see that he's tall and he's nice and he's got a perfect disposition, and but you can't tell much about his heart. You know, you can't look at him and tell if he's got the proper heart that he needs to you know, when he's on the shorts to get the job done. So um, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that. You know.
right. So and the reason why I wanted to kind of cover that, because we have this trend, not had, we still do have the
Mm-hmm.
trend of the ASIL crosses, and everybody now, you got people who said that they would never touch an ASIL owning them. You got people who
Well, you
said
know,
that.
and I was one of those people too. You know,
Mhm,
I mean, as Americans, like you said, we don't like, it's a boring style. Stand there and look at each other and then walk up, and they'll be touching tail feathers, and they'll walk around each other for a little while, before they even start, doing what they're supposed to be doing. But they have a lot of unique qualities. They're real healthy. They're super intelligent chickens that cut really, really well. And in Mexico, they're hard to beat. But if you can make it with a minute with most
Mhm.
of them, you got a good shot.
You got a good shot. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I bring that point up because I had mentioned some time back, with this whole trend, I said that it's going to be guys out there with American chickens that will be able to neutralize that trend. Um, and I guess it goes back to like you just said, it's
Well, yeah,
learned
exactly.
behavior as well.
People started adapting. They started figuring out that, oh, these roundhead roosters, these Kelso chickens, or these hat chickens.
Mhm.
I mean, if I don't make him mad, yeah, he will stand there and he will adapt because they're much more stronger than. I mean, they're faster than the A seal. They're
Mhm.
more athletic than the A seal, and it's starting to show.
I knew it. I mean, I'm just saying, I definitely knew it. It's always American game fowl, and I'm not going to say American breeders are any better than anybody else, but
Mm-hmm.
I know when it comes to trends, there
Mm-hmm.
always somebody there that just readjust their selection process or the way they do things to neutralize
Yeah,
that trend. That happens in almost everything. And
exactly.
and it goes back to what you said on your last interview about the ones at the top of the food chain. They only have a few bloodlines, but they deeply understand the
Mm-hmm.
bloodlines that they have.
Right.
And that's basically going to this. The guys who deeply understand the bloodlines that they have, they can make those selection adjustments
Mm-hmm.
to produce that result that they're looking for. And it goes back
Exactly.
also, like you just said, learning
Mm-hmm.
not just coming from the brood pen, but the other half is I can't spar these chickens the same way I used to spar 'em when I was looking at them hit the lights 6 feet up in the air and fly across and all that. They
Mm-hmm.
just changed the selection process and they changed their sparring process. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
That's exactly the truth, and like we say, it takes a few years to do it. So, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or making a couple little adjustments, they're right back up on top again.
Yep. I mean that's what I wanted to talk about because that's what I kind of see. Like I say, it doesn't just happen in this industry; it happens in every industry with cars, electronics, or whatever. People get to when they deeply understand their product, whether it's an animal or whatever it is, they make adjustments. Same thing in boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Guys just make adjustments. They're not fighting 15 rounds now. They fighting 10 rounds and 12 rounds. They had to make adjustments. They training had to start change. Their conditioning had to change. Everything had to change. They had to get
Exactly.
in and get the job done 3, 4, 5 rounds sooner. So you just make adjustments. The
Yeah.
big hardy guys that were strong can go 15. These guys today, they're struggling to go 10, but they'll
Right.
knock you out in 7.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's all about style. What style are you looking for?
Mhm,
You need to know, um, what style you're looking for while you're selecting your individuals to put in the brood pens.
mhm.
And and it's that's a big part of it.
That's a big part of it. So now we kind of know at the end result what we're looking for, the characteristics and that kind of stuff. Let's back it up a little bit when they're younger. What
Hmm.
type of things are you looking for in young chicks, young stags, as they grow older before we get to that end point? What kind of things are you looking for considering the resources, locations, and all that kind of stuff in Mexico? Because their food is different. There's a lot of things that's different there. So what are you
Well,
looking for in them?
obviously, health is number one. Some bloodlines are a lot healthier than others. Take for instance, I had some Joe Goods, that I'd bred for a while, and they were just absolutely, they were just kind of real sickly, in a nice climate, like say up in Kentucky when it's fresh and green, and the weather's really nice. You don't have no
Mhm,
problem with them. But out west, out here in a dry desert, down in Mexico, when there's a lot of disease and it don't never
mhm,
get cold, they
mhm.
struggle. So I
Mm.
cut those bloodlines out. I cut the Joe Goods out, and like I said, a healthy nice stag running around is going to put you way ahead. But there's other stuff you need to look at too. Some some bloodlines are just dumb. They'll stand in the rain and just drown, and there's some. It's just, look, you can say there's 10 stags, and you say you just pinned them up,
Right.
and you go down through there, and you got one or two of them. His water bowls are always dirty.
Mm.
Not saying mud eaters or anything like that, but just saying that his pen is
A
his
wreck.
water's always dirty, and he's always doing just retarded stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 or 3 pins down, his full brothers, the waters are always clean.
Mm-hmm.
They got a different attitude to them. It's there's a lot of stuff you need to look for, but mainly in Mexico, where there's a lot of disease and a lot of and then that's why a lot of people's breeding the A seal down there too, because an A
Mm-hmm.
seal, he's hardy. He'll eat
Right.
everything that you put in front of him. They're easy to condition. They're not mean. And that's why the ACL, the Oriental chicken, is doing so well in Mexico, because they got a lot of positive characteristics that
Work with the climate, huh?
that work with the climate and
The region.
their region. And they're working really, really well over there. So that's why, another reason why, that everybody loves them.
Right, right, and that makes a lot of sense too. I guess having something, because that health is wealth. So if you got something that can stay healthy, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be ahead of the game. And I guess if you got a chicken that's almost on autopilot as far as his health, like
Right.
he's healthy without you having to put a lot of stuff in him and all that. He's
Mm-hmm.
like naturally staying healthy under these conditions. I guess
Yep.
is putting everybody ahead.
Yep.
So I never thought about that though. As far as you says, particular bloodlines is not as hardy as the other bloodlines when it comes to health. So they might be in some can handle harsher conditions than others
Well,
based on
a
families.
lot of inbred. Some families has been bred. They've been inbred for too long.
Hmm.
They're short, they're big, they're small, they're mean, they got some little something wrong with them.
Hmm.
And usually if you cross them out, they can handle a lot of different stuff. It's just like anything else. If it's tight bred, it's not going to be. It's not going to withstand a lot of stuff from harsh climates and stuff. So I think that's got a lot to do with it down in Mexico, and the people. They everybody likes a gentle rooster. American game fowl are hard to condition, a lot harder condition than Oriental fowl are.
Hmm.
Take for instance, sometimes the Orientals. The Oriental eat everything that you put in front of him.
Hmm.
Sometimes the American fowl, they'll eat good one day and not good the next, and
Hmm.
they may stress out a little bit. And a lot of people that don't have a whole lot of experience don't know how to adjust to those those characteristics. So that's another reason why the ACL is so
Popular.
popular in Mexico.
Because so the aces is kind of like a user friendly chicken, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, they're for a beginner, and that and they, like I say, they have a lot of characteristics that do really, really well for somebody that don't know a whole lot about chickens.
gotcha, guys. Not to cut off, but guys, it's over 100 people watching right now. If y'all guys can do us a favor and just share this video, the more information we can get out, the better. But please, like I say, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and share the video. So tell me this, Clark, that I think plays a huge role that I never heard nobody talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that is one of the reasons. Well, I ain't gonna say one. That could be a large part of the reason
No, it is.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a large part of it.
Um, you know, like I say, in Mexico, they're just kind of getting started. Bringing everything into making an industry out of it. They're getting more serious and stuff from what they do. Their conditioning, because a lot of them just relied on the states a lot of times, and
Mhm.
they still a lot of them rely on everybody raising chickens here in the states. But I'm gonna tell you what, I got a lot of friends in Mexico that I think they raise just as good as chickens as anybody up here in the states. But
Mm.
depending on their location, they might not be able to raise as good as chickens up here because the harsh environment that they have. So it might be better for some of them just to buy from the States. And that's what a
Mhm.
lot of them do, but
Right.
you take, a good friend of mine, Melo,
Mhm.
he's down in Jalisco up in the mountains. It's nice and fresh. And, he's in his area. It's perfect to raise chickens. But now you might go to my buddy over in Sinaloa. It's on the
Mhm.
coast, and it's absolutely terrible, because the humidity, the heat,
Mhm.
so it might be better for some of them to buy chickens and then trying to raise them in their area.
So
So
I
that
guess that so I guess their environment is kind of forces some of them to
oh yeah.
always okay.
Yeah, that mean the environment down there in Mexico and forces a lot of them to have to buy, because they just can't. It's the climates don't let them.
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, that's the environment. The environment, there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, and
Right.
I guess you're saying, and everybody knows this, that if the healthier chicken are, the greater your chances of having a positive result.
Of course.
Um, and then if you're raising something that is in a harsh environment and it can't be extremely healthy, then
Mm,
I guess it makes all the sense in the world to say, hey, buy, I don't want to throw my money away, but I would
right.
just go ahead and buy some healthy ones than to try to raise some that's going to be fragile and frail. Um, so I guess that's what I don't think a lot of people understand. That's the reason why the market will always stay big
Oh
due to the
yeah.
fact that the harsh environments won't allow. Would you say probably 50% of the country is harsh environments when it comes to
Well, I
raising?
mean, everybody in Mexico, no matter the region, they raise some chickens. Obviously, they raise chickens everywhere down there. But
Mhm,
now there's only a very few places, in my opinion, that is can sustain raising healthy, quality chickens.
mhm,
And they have a lot of like the eating chickens. They have a lot of big farms there, and it just
mhm.
causes a lot of disease because it never gets cold down there. In a lot of
Right.
places it never gets cold, so the disease in the ground stays rampant. and
Mhm.
and it makes it difficult to raise chickens.
Right. 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 Okay, so Clark, tell me this. Let's talk about some of the characters. You said medium station, you know, uh, do they like, what medium say, do they like broad backs? I hear a lot
Well,
of talk about that with broad.
yeah, I mean they have to have a good body. Down
Mhm,
there they have to have a good solid body. Like I say, medium station,
mhm.
intelligent rooster. Um, um,
How about breasts? Big breasts?
yeah, you don't want a big bulky, rooster that can't move too well, but just well made, put together. But they need to be more solid than say the Filipino roosters,
Mm,
because in the Philippines they just breed for really height. The body's small,
mhm.
and just tall, long legs. Intelligent roosters too, but it's a completely different style.
Right, right. So with the Mexicans, so basically that's kind of what, I guess with the best case scenario, like one of your buddies who's able to raise,
Mm-hmm.
uh that he's able to raise. Is it any particular characteristics that y'all guys are looking for as they being raised when they free range? Is it attitude that you're looking for? If they eat last, if they get ran off, is there any particular things you look at besides the confirmation on them down in
Well,
Mexico?
obviously, you're just looking for what you can see, good confirmation,
Mhm,
and then chickens that kind of just there's some breeds that just do well, and like say uh, more tight in, say they're raised inside of a run or something like
mhm,
that. Like the ASIL type chicken, they really don't peck each other's feathers too bad. They
mhm,
don't give each other a hard time. But
mhm,
like say, maybe some hatch kelsels or something like that, they might start fighting when they're 3, 4 months old.
mhm,
When the ASIL crosses might not fight till they're 7 months old.
mhm.
So it might, some of them makes, some of the bloodline just makes it a little easier to breed depending on the space that you have.
Mhm.
But if you got a big old nice a farm, where they got plenty of space to run around, obviously, the bloodline ain't gonna matter much.
Right.
But So yeah, I mean, just depending on your size of your farm and how much space you got to let them run loose.
Right. So Clark, tell me, is there any particular family that is crossing well with the A seals down in Mexico? The Kelsos, the Hatches, any particular
A little bit.
family?
Well, the dominant cross in Mexico right now is Hatch A seal, Sweater
Hatch
A
A.
seal, or Hatch A seal, and then the best team in Mexico, they fight a lot of Hatch A seals. That's the best cross for them, because the Hatch puts the strength, the body structure, the want to,
Mhm, mhm,
the balls. They put the balls
mhm,
on the
mhm. That gameness,
the
that
intelligence,
grit.
the gameness. So yeah, I mean it's Hatch A seals dominate Mexico.
Hatch A seals dominating in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Now tell me this, on the opposite side, what have you seen straight Americans? What families have you seen straight Americans that's doing very well down there?
For me, my sweater roundheads has been doing the best. Anything roundhead cross, because my roundheads are intelligent. They
Mhm,
can handle that ACL type style. They'll
mhm.
wait, but they're more athletic, gamer. So you know, you have to have an intelligent chicken. He to deal with that ACL style, and they're still hard to beat. So
They still hard
I
to
don't
beat.
think the ACLs are going away down there. I was kind of having a talk with a good buddy of mine. Here in Texas, he raises a lot of ACLs. A lot of
Mhm.
50% ACL, 50% whatever. And I was telling him, I said, I think they're going to die out. But after watching them for a couple years, he's right. My buddy Alfredo, he's 100% correct.
Mhm. They ain't going nowhere
They ain't going nowhere because
because
they
of the
got so
hardiness
many.
too, huh?
Well, the hardiness, and they just got so many good qualities to them, such as the intelligence. You don't even have to even really spar that much.
Mm.
So
Well, that you got that right then. So it's kind of like I
because
said,
they already come out with that sidestepping, unique running around.
Mhm.
They'll run around, do two circles before they'll even start showing.
Hmm.
And that style, like I say, with the room that they have and the size of their pit,
Right.
it makes them hard to beat.
Makes them hard to beat. So it seems like, do you see a lot of them crosses against crosses is the ones that's kind of doing well? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, say if there's 50 entries in a derby down there,
mhm.
40 of them are ACL crosses. Let's just put it that way.
Wow.
Majority of the about any. I mean, like say in a couple of different parts of the country. But I'm talking about first level, the first division down
Mm.
there. Um,
They're gonna be crosses.
80% is ACL crosses, to maybe even 90% sometimes. Depending.
Wow.
But yeah, very very few people over there fighting straight. Say, American crosses.
Wow. So tell me this, how long you think that's been going on?
Well, I mean, it's the ACL craze has probably been around for about 5 years now, or maybe a little
Right.
bit before that, but not. And it's not been around,
They ain't been
too
around that
long.
long, about
No, it
5
ain't been
years.
around that long. And like I said, I was arguing with a good buddy of mine. Them son of a guns, they're not game enough. It's going to die out. But
Mhm.
I think he's right. I don't think they're going nowhere.
I think just based on the environment down there, they just found something that's more conducive to the environment. So I
Yeah,
don't think it's gonna go nowhere. Just
exactly.
that's
They
one
knit
of the biggest
good.
reasons.
They
Mhm.
condition good. They're easy to feed. They're easy to handle. They're not mean. Yeah, they're not going nowhere.
So I guess it's now does everybody need to focus on perfecting that mix and the
Well,
selection
everybody up here
process.
now, almost every single American breeder, they all got ACLs. They all come up with ACLs somewhere.
Yep.
I've had ACLs forever. I said, no, I've been to your place like 25 times. You never had an ACL. And even me, it's even forced me to go,
Right.
locate some good ACLs, and
Right.
I breed a few. I mean, personally, I don't like them,
Mhm.
but you gotta supply your customer what he likes, not what you
Right.
like,
Right.
sometimes, I mean, I breed for myself.
Mhm.
I like my roundhead crosses, and then and I've done with it. I've done well with my ACL crosses too.
Mhm.
But far as me keeping them and fighting them myself, I let somebody else do that.
Okay, well,
They all
tell me.
go. They all go to Mexico.
Well, tell me this, Clark. Do you feel it? Is it difficult for them to recreate those crosses, or is everybody just buying them? You know what I mean? Or
Well,
is it?
now, like I told you, the hatch ACL's dominant. You see almost every American breeder, they're trying to copy that and breeding hatch ACLs and sweater ACLs. There's only a couple. There's people that breed gray ACL. Obviously, they cross them with everything,
Mhm.
but everybody's trying to imitate. The hatch ACL right now. Everybody wants a penny. The this it's half penny, half plumber ACL is what's dominating, down there right now. And now
Mhm.
everybody's got pennies and plumbers, when they're not even nowhere close to that. But when there's money involved, they're gonna come up with all kinds of stupidities.
They, yeah, they're gonna have on their yard whatever's selling right then.
Right.
Whatever that is.
Whatever's the end right now, that's what they're gonna have.
That's right. That's right. So basically, they're just going to have to keep getting supplied with 50/50s, basically, because
They
nobody's.
want 50/50s and they like them to look ACL. Like me, I got some clients, that I got some clients in Durango that they buy 100 stags a year.
Mhm.
They want ACL crosses. And I only had about 75 or 80, half ACL, half round head or half
Mhm.
sweater,
Mhm.
and I had about 25 that was 3/4 sweater and a quarter ACL, but they don't look really ACL. They look more Americanish,
Mm.
and they don't want them to look like that. Majority of them don't.
Oh, oh.
Um, I don't see much different. I even think that the 3/4 and a quarter is the best cross, but
Hmm.
for me, in my opinion, but they like them 50/50. So it's whatever your customers want.
Right, but you say you think the three-quarter is a better.
I think the three quarter sweater and a quarter A seal, or 3/4 hatch and a quarter A seal is the best. They're a little faster. They got they look better. They don't look like dinosaurs.
Right, right. We got a few comments in the. We got a few questions in the comments. One of the older comments was, "Do you feel as though?" He asked, "Do you feel as though the fowl down in Mexico they keep them a little fatter?"
Oh well, in my opinion, your rooster should be a little bit fatter anyway, out
Mhm.
on the yard. The reason why that, because when you put him up, you got something to work with.
Mhm.
You don't want to put no skinny rooster up on no keep.
Right.
You ain't got nothing to work with. You're gonna throw
Right.
him in the fly pans and he's gonna scratch for, and then even get him skinner. So a rooster should be a little bit more on the fat side when you put him up for conditioning.
Okay.
It don't matter where you're at, and
Right.
you like you say, you got to have something to work with.
Right. And one of the questions asked about a particular ACL family. I think Clark just covered that. He said the plumber, um, the ACL. He asking about the ACL family. Is any particular family that's doing
Well,
well?
the
Mhm.
plumbers is real popular. The Wallace, ACL, um, the Atkinson. That's what I have.
Mhm.
Sanitol. There's many. Me, I'm not an ACL
Guy.
professional. I'm not
Right.
the guy to talk to and learn a whole lot about ACLs, because
Mhm.
I've just had them, in the past 4 or 5 years myself,
Mhm.
and my customers are asking for them over my bloodlines, proven and tested bloodlines. So I'm
Mhm.
not the professional on the ACLs, but
Right.
I've seen them do very, very well.
Right. Hmm. So I guess like you say, that's kind of what they're looking for in Mexico. So
Yes.
Clark kind of walked through, from kind of the beginning to the end as far as them running the yard, what they're looking for, the confirmation, the characteristics, the percentage types as far as, crosses, 50/50s is what they're looking for. They like that phenotype that looks like the ACL. They were still with that Oriental look. So
Mm-hmm.
three-quarter is kind of eliminating not so much of the Oriental look, and you see they kind of still want that Oriental look.
Right.
Um, so he talked about the different ACL families that's kind of crossing, but you said the hatch and ACL and the sweater and ACL is pretty much the kind of dominant crosses down
Yeah,
there.
that's the dominant cross. I'd say I'd say 60, a little over 60%, is hatch A seal, and then the other side is the other 40 something percent is probably sweater A seal in the top division, in
Okay.
the first level.
Right.
That's the majority of what I see, and then obviously you see other bloodlines too.
Right.
Sweater gray, ACL gray, ACL Kelso, ACL black. You see all that different type of stuff too. But I'm
Right.
just talking about the majority of what I see.
Right. 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 So guys, listen, we pretty much covered, Mexico. And that is, but also too, Clark. So we just talked about the chickens. I also want to talk a little bit about, and I know we only be focused on selection, but I also want to talk a little bit about the environmental conditions, how they differ so much, because there's a lot of misconception that all you need and to do well in Mexico is good genetics.
Yeah.
And you talked about the last time, you talked about the road conditions, the travel conditions, the environmental conditions. All of those things play a huge role. So when guys think, hey, I got the right brood pen, these things can fly, these things can wait, these things are intelligent, they are totally ignoring the fact that, like you said last interview, they can't travel. I mean, if you travel 4 hours, you beating your roosters to death because the
Well,
roads are not smooth and stuff like that.
here's the first thing. If you're from here in the States
Hmm.
and you're thinking about going to Mexico, you're thinking about going to the Philippines, you need to go over there and just hang out for a month, before you
Hmm.
even think about doing anything or wasting any money or taking any chickens over there.
Hmm.
Because first of all, they're not developed countries like the United States here.
Right.
The roads ain't as nice. The infrastructure is not there.
Hmm.
So, and then they have their ways of doing things.
Hmm.
Whether we think that's right or wrong, that's the way they do things.
Hmm.
So I would suggest to go over there and just hang out. The people in Mexico, Guadalajara, Sinaloa, real friendly people. The Mexicans are warm people.
Hmm.
Just go over there and hang out, ask questions, and go figure it out before you try to tackle it, because like I say, they're gonna kick your butt.
Right. Right. That's exactly right. Victor asks how important it is to have a team down there. I guess you kind of explain that. When you have a
Yeah,
team down there, the locals understand how things need to be done. And we'll talk a little
right,
later about that because you mentioned at the
right.
last when you went to Philippines that time. So
Mm-hmm.
so Victor, that's pretty much what he just described as well. One of the other things, Hector just asked this question too about preventative meds. Do they use a lot of meds down in
Oh yeah,
Mexico?
they've caught up with the rest of the world. Master Lab. You
Hmm.
got many different pharmaceutical companies down there. That's really good stuff. I don't know a whole lot of them just because I use
Right.
Filipino products. Just
Right.
my preference.
Right.
But yeah, they got a lot of gym labs.
Hmm.
They got a lot of. They got any medication you need. So they're up to speed when it comes to all the medicines. They got you covered on all corners.
Right, right. So, and I wanted to cover that aspect too, because again, it's always one-dimensional conversation when people talk about, somebody competing in another country and they
Mm-hmm.
think all you need is a brood pen. And I'm like, I know from going to Puerto Rico, you need more than a brood pen. First of all, you got to understand what the locals are doing,
Right.
how they do things, the resources they have, the talent that's there is so much other than just genetics and brood pen. And I don't think that many people understand because they never left the country and never competed
Right.
outside the country that it takes more than a brood pen
Right. Well,
to be
what they
successful.
do, a lot of people, they're sitting back and watching YouTube and watching a lot of videos, and it's like, well, hell, them roosters ain't no daggone good.
Hmm.
I can beat them, no problem.
Hmm.
Well, it goes back to those saying, get off the couch and go get them. Uh, they, they're super tough in Mexico, and they perfected their weapon. Guadalajara's the top. It's the first division down there.
Hmm.
Just go down there and get one of them 100,000 peso derbies and see how you come out.
And see how you come out. Right.
It's easy. It's easy to sit here on the internet and criticize people.
Mhm. That's
Um,
exactly right.
like you say, go get you some.
That's exactly right. Go get you some. And the reason why I wanted you to cover that topic, like I said at the beginning, you wanted a few people that's been able to come on here and be able to discuss your experience in 3 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's firsthand information. It's not something that you heard. It's something that you live, and you did it
Right.
just for a week or for a month. You've been doing it
Mm-hmm.
for years. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I think that's important, especially for, up and coming guys who have a dream and aspiration to compete in another country one day.
Well,
It.
I mean, that's just like me. I'm going to retire in one or the other.
Mhm.
Whether it's going to be the Philippines or Mexico, and I might go back and forth. I love both places.
Right.
You know, but they especially the Philippines. They center their culture around chickens. It's more freely there, and so on for what we like.
Mhm.
But a few years down the road,
Mhm.
I'll be traveling back and forth to those countries, and I might not even come back to the States.
Right. Right. It's a whole different animal. I can tell you. I mean, being
Oh
in a
yeah,
country where it is legal and the culture is built around it, everything about it is accepted within the culture and it's a part of the culture. It's
right.
totally different than living in a place where everything affiliated with the culture is illegal. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's a lot of stuff
I
that.
mean, we're here in the States. I mean, we've let it get away, and there's too much money behind, PETA and a lot of these different places, and then, and then nobody even really cares. It's not coming back. I
Mhm.
mean, there's a lot of hope and this and that, and I hope it does. I mean, like people. I mean, if it wasn't for people like you, there'd be no hope. And yeah, I mean, it's sooner or later I'll have to go to one of those countries
Mhm.
and live down there permanently. And I've tried both of them. You know, um, they like I say they do different stuff. The food, the little stuffs. I mean, I love America.
Mhm.
We love the way that we got our steaks and we got
Mhm.
our tomato ketchup. In the Philippines they eat banana ketchup and ugh, you know. You know, I mean, the little small stuff starts adding up. When you're in those different countries, because you love where you're from. It don't matter. I mean, how you grew up or whatever. You enjoy your comforts or wherever you're from. So
That's exactly right. That's definitely, yeah. Living in another country, yeah, like I say, you sometimes just miss the small things, like having a sub that's
yeah.
made like Philadelphia style. I
Mm-hmm.
love Philadelphia and New York sub sandwiches, and when I'm in
Right.
Puerto Rico, I can't get it. You
You
know what I
can't
mean?
get it. You can't
You
get
just
it.
can't.
You know?
You just can't get it. You know what I mean?
That,
And it's
that,
just you
that,
try it. Their bread is different. They don't
yeah.
have the kind of bread over there that you. So
No.
and they do a lot. I mean, the great thing is you learn to embrace it. You know what I mean? When
Right.
you go to another
Right.
country, you have to embrace it. You can't go there
Exactly.
comparing it. And it's the
No.
same thing
No.
in game foul. If you're gonna go and compete in Mexico and you go and compete in the Philippines, embrace their ways. Don't
Mm,
go over there like, well, in the States we do it like this, and I don't know why
no.
you do that. Man, just embrace it.
Right.
Right?
And like I say, your life would be so much easier, and like I say, you'll start missing a few things and so on. But like you say, you got to embrace the way that they do things,
Mhm.
because obviously they're not going to change for you.
Right.
They're hospitable, but
Right.
you either take it or you don't.
You take it or leave it. Right. So Clark, let's talk about just a couple little things quick that they had mentioned in the comments. Guy wanted to kind of talk about the quality of the knives down there, the quality of feed down there. What do you say? Feed, knives, and as far as the farms, like do they use fly pens down there, scratch pens down there?
Well, I
You know,
mean, they use the same conditioning methods as we do. Fly pins, scratch pins,
mhm,
tie cords.
mhm,
They have the same thing as far as that. They try to produce as good as grain as they can, but they don't
mhm,
have as good as grain as we do here in the States. A lot of your top teams, they import the feed from here in the States.
mhm,
Cascaveles, I know, and they import all their feed from California.
mhm.
But you just can't get as good as a feed, because obviously they
The
can't compete
environment.
with the environment and the growing seasons here in the States.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly right. And
But they
guys,
do
if
their
y'all,
best.
yeah,
They try to produce the best quality feed that they can, you know. So
Yep. And guys, what Clark is talking about, it's that's like scientifically proven. You
yeah.
know, Josh Huffman talked about that in his interview, and he's a feed grain buyer. He buys
Mm-hmm.
grain feed for livestock, and
Right.
he educated us in that interview. Like, depending on where the grain is grown, will determine the nutritional value. All corn is not
Exactly.
the same. All wheat is not the same. He
No.
said depends on what part of the country or the world is grown in will determine the quality of the nutrients in that. And that's what Clark is saying. Their
Right.
environment don't allow them to grow very high dense nutritional grain down there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why some of the higher up guys import it from the state. So that's what
Right.
he's kind of talking about. But it goes back to embracing the resources and the environment that you have down there to compete. You've been competing in another country that had very high quality grain. Now
Mm-hmm.
you down in a country got low quality grain. Can your chicken stand it? Like
Right.
Clark was
Now,
saying earlier, his grays couldn't stand that environment. They stayed sickly all the time. Not saying they wasn't
right.
good chickens because you had them for
Right.
years, but
Right.
based on those conditions,
They couldn't
that
handle it.
is a huge thing.
Yeah, they couldn't. You know, they couldn't handle those conditions. So, you know, like you know, obviously the main thing is you got to go live in those areas. You
Hmm.
know, if you're serious about it and you want to try to be the best and go down there and compete, you know, you just go check it out first. You
Right.
know, don't take my word on it. Don't take your word on it.
Mhm.
Just go down there because everybody has different experiences. You know,
Right. Right.
so go down there, try to develop you a team.
Hmm.
And here's the here's a big thing that I see too. A lot of people here in the States, they try to partner up with somebody over there, and yet obviously you have to have a team,
Hmm.
you know, because you got to come back here to the States and work and make a living unless you're retired or whatever the case.
Right.
But if you're trying to set up a team down there where you're sending them money and this and that, um, set money to aside that you can afford to lose. If you can afford to lose $10,000, set it aside, and then
Hmm.
whatever happens with it, you just take a chance on. And then if you lose it, you lose it. And if it turns out, you know, you made a successful team, because I've seen a lot of people, they invest too much too quick.
Hmm.
They'll send 200 roosters down there and tens of thousands of dollars,
Hmm.
and then they lose and they have a bitter experience on it. You know,
Right.
not everybody in the world's good people, not
Hmm.
everybody in the world's bad people,
Right.
but you know, a lot to, if you're going to get started, a lot aside of money that you can just afford to say, hey, I don't need that,
Hmm.
and life will be a lot easier for you. You know.
That's a good piece of information, guys, because I know a lot of guys, being the condition that the United States is in, a lot of guys have aspirations to go out there and
Mm-hmm.
have roosters down there, compete down there, and nobody really talks about that. Like you said, you don't want to invest too much too soon. The other thing is you want to go down there and spend some time down there a couple times before you do anything. Just
Right.
observe the culture, observe the systems, observe the resources they have down there, observe how they do things down there. So it's a lot that needs to go into it. It's not just picking up, shipping them out, or have somebody down there, call them up. Hey, we good buddies. We met on Facebook. Let me send you some money because you got some space and you can
Mm-hmm.
raise some chickens. You like that's a mistake, huh?
That's a mistake, you know. But like I say, first of all, just go down there and check it out, you know. And if you meet some people that you like and you get along with, and you think that you can be successful, yeah, give it a try. But you know, just go slowly and then see where it goes. You know.
Right. One other thing, Clark, what is the type of knives that well, obviously we know is short, but what is the type of knife that's very prominent across the
Well, I mean, you got a lot of different makers down there. You know,
and not just
I've got.
the makers, but like the designs of them and size.
Well, I mean, for me, I like it's called a special. You know, a special style. It's
Mhm.
almost like a Nike check.
Mhm.
That's the style that my roosters do real well with. And there's many different styles of knives, and then 10,000 different styles of boots, you
Mhm.
know, that you have to, you know, they're tall, wider, thinner. I mean, man, there's 10,000 different
And
options, you know, and
right.
there's 10,000 different people that's making them.
Mhm.
Um, Now that I will say, well, I mean, it's kind of a hard subject to get in for me on, because I got a lot of friends that makes knives and a lot of friends that makes boots. And
Well, we ain't
I
got
don't
to get
want
into to particulars. I just really
Right.
wanted to know
I'm just saying, you know,
yeah.
but I'm just saying there's, some of them's good, some of them's bad, and you'll never know until you use them. So that's
So
about
we
as
leave
that's
that at
about,
that.
I'll just leave it at that.
Because to go back to everybody had their own experiences. So you got one guy
Right.
saying it's the best thing, and you got other guy like, man, them things are trash. I have heard it.
Right.
Believe me, I heard it 1,000 times. You're right. So,
Yeah. So
so guys, that
I mean, and no joke, I've ordered from 5 different makers.
right.
And usually, I'll endorse a knife, because a lot of people always, follow me and ask me, hey,
Mhm,
you're winning. What knife are you using? This and that.
mhm,
And a lot of different makers, they'll just send me knives for free,
mhm.
just to try out. So, I mean, I've got them from several different makers, and there's some good ones and there's some bad ones, but I don't want to mention no names.
They just need to just try it. That's all. Just go back to
Exactly.
trying. That
Hmm.
that's it. That's it. So pretty much with that, that's the answer to that, guys. As far as boots, as far as knives, Clark is saying there's good ones and bad ones, like it is in everything.
Hmm.
Everybody have their own personal experiences. So his recommendation is just try it, and then you like what you like, and you dislike what you dislike. So that's the answer to that question there. Um, Okay, Clark. So we pretty much covered in detail. You think we missed anything as far as what you would give some guys advice when it comes to
Well, as Americans, like I say, there's 2 different countries that's real popular that Americans go to: Mexico and the Philippines.
mhm,
And the biggest difference between the one or the other, you know, Filipinos are taught English in school. You know,
mhm,
so it's a lot easier to communicate over there. They learn English at an early age,
mhm,
and it's a little easier to communicate than it is Mexico. But like me, I've had to learn the Espanol a little bit.
mhm,
You got to be a little bit more dedicated and want to learn their language.
mhm,
They don't have as many English speakers, say as like the Filipinos do, because like I say, they don't learn it in school.
mhm.
So, but that's another aspect that you want to kind of consider too, and then you got to just consider what weapon that you like the best. You like the long knife, you like the short knife, because they don't fight any other weapon.
Mm,
You just got to figure out what weapon you like the best.
right. So in Mexico, they only doing short knife.
Yeah, only short knife. They have a few gaff derbies, like March the 9th. They've got 100 entry invitation only. They do it just for their American friends, that
Right.
want to come down and give them
Support.
kind of a tribute to them. Um, I mean, they will have a couple of gaff derbies a year, but not very many. I mean, majority of everything is short knife, just like in
Got
the Philippines. It's mainly all long knife. So, you got to figure out what you like and what you prefer before you even interested in going to any one of them, before you make any choices.
right. So and the guys are asking about the keep and all that. You kind of went over that already. Talked about everything is pretty much similar to the states. They try to condition and everything pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're just like anything else, they're trying to get them the healthiest. They're trying to get them with the most stamina. They're trying to get them, uh, healthy and as athletic as possible in the best shape possible,
Mhm.
so
So
everybody's got the same goal.
everybody got the same goal. So tell me this, Clark, 2 things. One, do they do any table working down there or not at all?
Well, yeah, they do. I mean, it's
What they
just
do?
because the Filipinos and the Mexicans, they idolize the Americans. They're interested in buying the old keeps.
Mhm,
Some people believe in table working. Some people don't believe. Me personally, I don't table
mhm.
work anything.
Okay.
Um, because if I can't whoop you in the first minute,
Mhm,
I don't condition for the drags.
mhm,
I'm not going to sit down there and knock down drag out with you. You're
mhm.
going to either get me quick or I'm going to get you quick, and then that's what I focus on.
Okay. Right. Right. I got you. I got you. So that's the answer to that, guys. Like you say, it's kind of it's same thing here. You got guys that don't believe any table work, and you
Yeah.
got guys that do, and like you say, vice versa. Was there a big um was that because you competed here in the States back when it was legal for a long time?
Hmm.
What was like the biggest culture shock that as far as going to the birds? What was like the biggest shock to you as far as conditioning the rooster in Mexico and conditioning the rooster in the States? Like, was it so
Well,
dry?
here first
Dealt
of
with that?
all, now when it was legal, and I used to go to Sunset. I used to travel from Kentucky. Kentucky, we're a poorer part of the country. We might only have 7 or 8 roosters to put up to fight the 5 cock. It'd be a black rooster, a white rooster, 2 hatch grays, or whatever. They're not real uniformed, and not a whole bunch of them.
Right.
Because we couldn't afford to be able to raise a whole lot of chickens.
Right.
So when I traveled down to Sunset, and I seen at these big events, the top derbies in the country at the time, you go by a lot of people's cock houses, and they'd have anywhere from 30 to 50 roosters lined up in the drop pens, and every one of them identical. They'd be all brothers, and that was just so incredible, completely shocking to me. I was like, man,
right.
They got 50 roosters sitting out there for, the 8 cock or the 12 cock, 3-day derby. And, that's where I really learned to start taking off on just having a couple bloodlines that really clicked. Cause you've seen all the guys that dominated. They only had Hatch Kelsels or Sammy Ramsey's Hatch Grays or Bobby Fairchild fighting Kelsel Grays or whoever. They had a certain bloodline that they dominated with, and they had 50 beautiful, identical full brothers lined up in the drop pens.
Right. So that's the big difference between the here in Mexico as far as.
Yeah, but now they're wanting a lot of uniform chickens too. Now
They do.
now they're catching up. Like I say, they've caught up with the states or past the states. Now they like all identical roosters. If they're all hatch A, if they fighting hatch A seals, they're all going to be hatch A seals. In that derby. And that's kind of what I'm comparing it to a little bit there. So
right, got you. Okay, guys. So I think Clarkton pretty much covered every aspect that we can cover in this short interview on the Mexican side. So let's go ahead and since we already talking about out the country, let's go ahead and start talking about the Philippines. Let's start off with the confirmation. Like, what are they looking for in their fowl?
Well, I mean, the Filipinos are looking for they like tall, long. I mean, roosters. A lot of they have a long shank. I'm talking about from where their leg connects to their body down to their elbow. That, I mean, if you look at a lot of short knife chickens, that's short and fat and stocky. But in the Philippines, they're long, tall. They're not looking for the big old bulky bodies, the big back, not so much. They're looking for this tall, intelligent chickens, ungodly tall. A lot of people think that they have tall chickens. You never seen tall roosters until you went to the Philippines. I mean, you can almost roll a basketball between their legs.
They that tall, huh?
You look at them, yeah. I mean, you look at them and like, damn. I mean, this thing has to be 2.5 kilos, and then no, it's only a 1.9 kilos. They look big, but their legs are and they don't even really look like right on, especially a lot of the stags that have it growed into their body. I don't even like, how in the hell did they even work? How the hell did they even work? Do what they're supposed to do.
With them legs being that long.
Yeah, I mean, they're tall, linky chickens.
Very long, streamline, like a greyhound or something, huh?
Kind of, yeah. More like, yeah, exactly. More bred to. Well, I mean, because of the weapon. The weapon. The knife is 4 inches long on average, anywhere from 3.5 to I've seen 4.5 inches long.
Wow.
So, it just goes back to their weapon. They a little short. Little rooster, yeah, he might be able to win, but 9 times out of 10, if he's into something that's much longer than him, he's going to reach out there and touch you, and you can't even get close. So they're bred for tall. They're tall chickens.
Right. So that kind of just brings you back to and I hear a lot of guys say, "Oh, my chickens can compete anywhere in any weapon."
Right.
And I always say, listen, as long as a weapon is on a leg, they have a chance to
Well,
to
of
eliminate
course,
something. But
especially
we're
in the
talking about
knife.
on an average, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like on an average and top level.
hmm Well, and then here's another thing. In the Philippines, they like intelligent roosters too. And they fight all American type chickens. And so, okay, a lot of people say, well, how come how come the A seals don't do no good over there? Well,
Hmm.
here's the reason why A seals don't do good in that country.
Hmm.
An A seal will not pick on top. See, the referee handles in the Philippines.
Hmm.
Once you turn the roosters loose, the
Hmm.
referee handles from the rest of the rest of the fight.
Right.
And to win the fight, even though if the other rooster's dead, the referee will grab the rooster and
Hmm.
he'll put the other rooster up to him, and he has to peck twice before he can win. A
Hmm.
seals don't like to peck on top. They'll back their head up and try to get
Hmm.
away. They will not peck twice. That's why the A seal chicken cannot win in the Philippines. Majority of them they will not peck up on top. But in the Mexican rules, the beak has to, the beak has to touch the ground to lose.
Right.
So they don't have to be aggressive. They can just stand back on the other side of the line and don't have to cross. So, but in the Philippines, you got to peck twice. The rules determine, is also a big factor in what type of chickens that you breed. Just
Right.
like the gaff, here in the States, A seals and all these smart, intelligent chickens, they cannot win in the gaff because it's hard nose, knock down, drag out. You hit me, I hit you, and it's usually the guy that lasts the longest and stays the strongest that wins in the gaff.
Hmm.
I like a cutting rooster, but in the gaff, they just it don't end as quickly.
You
It
gotta have
can,
grit.
but not on the average.
Yeah,
And
he
then
gotta
usually
have grit.
whoever's got the most power is going to win the fight.
And usually who not only the most power, but also too who's usually the healthiest because the healthier
Who's
they
the
are.
healthiest? See, in the gaff is a lie detector test for me. The
Mhm,
knife, anybody can win in the knife. Short knife,
mhm,
long knife, anybody can win in it. The gaff is a lie detector test on how good of a conditioner you are, how good
mhm.
you bred your chickens are. It's a better combination of everything. I think the better chicken, the better rooster man wins in the gaff and then the knife,
Yeah.
because obviously, it's a lie detector test. If you want to see how game your roosters are, and the gaff is the only way to go. I don't
And
like it. I grew up with it. I don't like it. I'm too fat to handle that shit anymore. It takes too much work.
right.
So, you know, uh,
And I think it exposes all your weaknesses in your program too. I mean,
of course
that's
it
what I
does.
learned from being in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Using that inch and three quarters,
Mm-hmm.
that it exposes the weaknesses in your every aspect of your
Everything.
program, your conditioning, your
Yep.
genetics, your
Yep.
health. Those three things. If you put that inch and a three quarters on them, if you got any weaknesses in any part of that program, it's going to show.
You're gonna get exposed. You know.
Exposed.
Yep.
So I guess guys, that was a huge question about a lot of guys wanted to know because the ASEALs are smart and intelligence, but why they wasn't winning in the Philippines, and it had nothing to do with their ability to perform. Is the fact that they don't have that aggression.
No.
They don't have enough aggression in them based on their rules that
Based on their
they will.
rules, they will not peck up on top. I mean, I'm not saying all of them won't, but I'm just saying as a
Yeah, we talking about
majority, they
majority.
will not. That's not
Yeah,
their style. That's not their strength.
and they not
So,
bred for that anyway. They're
no, they're
really
not bred for that.
yeah. They're not bred for that. And if anybody can take anything from this interview, by the time we done, hopefully you'll understand that birds are bred for their weapon and their rules.
Yes.
Their weapon and their rules. That's
The
something I
most
talk about.
important thing, like I say,
Yep.
you got to figure out what program, I mean, what, destination you're trying to get to before you leave the start line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's extremely important. And it's something that McMillan had told me. He said, listen, birds are determined by their weapon and their rules. That's how you make
Exactly.
your selection. That's
100%.
how you know. 100%. Okay. So guys, you know that now. So please don't get your ego deflated or inflated when, not saying anything about the quality of your roosters cannot compete in any weapon. Like Clark said, they can compete in any weapon, but he's talking about at top level. These birds are bred for their particular weapon and their rules. So again, can they win? Yes, they can win. Will it be the majority of them winning? No, they won't majority win. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So just don't get it confused or feel as though it's downgrading a fowl that you have on your yard. If your fowl is not bred for that particular weapon, then don't measure him based on those standards because he's not bred for that weapon.
Yeah,
Make
you're
sure
going to
you're
fail. You're going to fail. You know, I mean, and you know, you got to be honest with yourself because everybody's really prideful in this game.
Yep.
You know, they got more pride. You know, all my roosters and this and that. Yeah, they may be. You know, but just have an open mind and just remember, you know, a thoroughbred cannot outrun a quarter horse and 300 yards. You know,
that's exactly right.
you know, so you know, you got to breed for what your what the weapon is, you know, and you'll be a lot more successful and just stay open minded and be honest and true to yourself, you know.
Right. So guys, make sure that don't go over your head. These make your selection based on your weapon and your rules. There's no getting around it. You can learn now to learn later, but you're gonna learn. If you competing at the top of the food chain, that's what those guys are doing.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're not doing anything else but that. They know what rules they playing in, and they know what weapon they playing in, and all their selection process is based on those two standards. So in the Philippines, you know, it's a whole different climate. Like, so what resources do they have over there as far as food, meds, that type of stuff?
Well, they import a lot, most of their grain. There's a lot of countries around them, Indonesia, Malaysia. Now they got a lot of different types of grain than we're used to seeing. I don't know the names of a whole lot of them, but they have a lot better choice of grains than we have. I think their feed is even better than the States.
Wow.
And the Filipinos is just they've been dialed in a lot longer than, you know, obviously here in the States, we've lost a lot of our stuff, you know, Mexico's rising and, you know, they're getting a lot better, but the Philippines is, you know, they've been a lot more professional than we have, than the rest of the world has, for a lot longer. So, you know, they're just a lot more established, you know, in the way that you say they run their stag derbies and the way that they run their, you know, the way that they do things, you know, they're just a lot more established than the rest of the world, just because they've been doing it longer, you know, and then the Mexicans are catching up real quick, you know.
Do you see in the Philippines, as far as they import a lot of chickens as well?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What is keeping them? Well, they breed a lot of chickens there too, because I think some of the largest farms in the world is literally in the Philippines, aren't they?
Oh yeah, the largest. I mean, by far. I mean, you've never been to a big farm. You know, Mexico don't have that many. You know, like Manuel Torres, he's probably got one of the biggest farms in Mexico. You know, they think he I don't know how many he raises, but he's got a big farm. But you know, and then here in the States, we got some pretty big ones. But there's nothing compared to the farms that they have over there. You know, you're considered a backyard rooster man if you have 500 roosters or less over there. You know, you take Aton Ong, you take Sunny Lagoon, you take Bibat Uy. I mean, they're raising 20,000 stags a year. You know, a huge breeder here in the States. I think I'd seen Jason Daniels a month or two ago, and I think he's raising 3,500 or something like that. You know, I mean that's just something to compare to. You know, I mean it's ungodly. And they, you know, they get to participate every day freely. You know, you're sitting there in Resorts World. It's a 5.5-star hotel, and you walk your roosters down the red carpet up into the pit. You know, and the pit master and you know, like I say, they've just got things really. I mean, they
out.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a whole different level.
Right.
So now we know, you know, as far as the meds and the vitamins and stuff like that, they very, very advanced in that. It seems like they have put in a massive amount of resources behind understanding what works, what don't work, how it works, why it works.
And they've formulated a lot of the reason I use their medicine, I'm saying the reason their medicine is why I use them. They're formulated for a chicken. You know, you'll see a lot of medicines here in the States and in Mexico. It's got a cow, it's got a cow, a horse, a chicken, a sheep.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not formulated specifically for a rooster. You know,
Mm,
now they are in Mexico. They're formulating them. You know, especially for chickens now. But
right.
I'm just saying the Filipinos has been doing it for a long time, specifically for a rooster, not for any other animals. You
Not
know,
for any other animal.
specifically for that rooster. You don't have to do a hillbilly
Conversion or anything like that.
oh, you don't have to do all the adjusting and this and that. It tells you right on the box
Right.
for a chicken, you know,
Right.
how much to give them. So it just
Right.
makes it a lot simpler, you know.
That's it. That's exactly right. So, and I guess they're doing all their testing as they're designing these formulations and the dosage sizes.
Mm-hmm.
They're testing that just on chickens itself,
Just
and like,
and then they're chicken people too. You know, they're
right,
doctors and lawyers
right.
and congressmen and all them. They're actually they're scientists. They're chicken people. They actually fight roosters themselves. So
Hmm.
they got a really good understanding of what they're looking for. So
Right.
and they've been doing it for a long time, a lot longer than the rest of us has been. So that's why I use their medicine. You know.
Hmm. And I did not know that their grain was so good. I didn't know they had access to really top notch grain like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. They like I say, there's a lot of countries around them right there that they import it. They grow a little bit of grain themselves, but they mainly import. And they have really quality feeds. And um, like I say, it's dialed in just for
Mm,
chickens, you know, not for
mm,
horses and everything else. They've been really dialed in for because that's their national sport, and it's
right.
one of the top employers, one of the
Hmm.
top money making um games in the Philippines. I mean, it's everywhere. Everybody's got chickens there. I mean, downtown Manila, I've been driving through, and it's I don't know how many millions of people that live there, congested, traffic
Right.
coming in every direction, and there's roosters tied out on the blacktop, and cars are driving around them, in the
Mm,
inner city, you know.
mm,
Everybody's got chickens there, you know.
mm. So tell me this, Clark. So they got great meds, great vitamins, great
Mm-hmm.
grain. We talked about the body structure of the fowl. They're very, very long shanks,
Right.
uh, streamlined bodies. Um, you know,
But
mhm,
But over there, their biggest drawback, it's a tropical climate,
mhm,
and they have so many different diseases. They get hit by Newcastle. They get hit by like 10 different diseases that, here in the States and Mexico was never even heard of because the
mm,
tropical, humid climate, man, they have to vaccinate for so many different things than we do. Um, I'd have to get because I don't know in their language. I don't know what they
right,
call it. I
right,
don't know how to say it.
right.
But they have many more diseases they have to deal with than we do. So a lot of their chickens, their eyes might start going a little greener. They don't have a real red colored eye. And I think that's
Hmm,
got a lot to do with say the Marek's and all the different diseases that kind of you know knock it out of the chicken. Um,
right.
but they just
So they
have a
do a
lot
lot of vaccination over there, huh?
of vaccinations, and they have a lot more stuff to deal with than we do.
Wow. Hmm. Hmm. And they raise a lot more. So tell me this. Their raising system, are they very, very systematic with raising their fowl from biddies on up? You know what I mean? Have you seen a
Well,
big difference in that?
over there, the you know, labor is a lot less expensive. It
Mhm.
is here in the States and Mexico. They can afford to hire more people. Say like my partner, he got like 24 people working for him.
Wow.
The labor is a lot more cheaper. You can hire. The more people you can hire and the more people you can afford, the
Right.
better, nicer farm that you're going to have.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's and then a lot of them they only have designated jobs. Like your job is only to go out there and water. and the other guy's job, his job is to only rotate roosters, and the other guy's job is only to breed chickens. They've got designated jobs, not all, but I'm just saying they
Right.
have
Right.
designated people, to do a certain thing. So
Right.
obviously, if you got a detailed team and a full staff like that, it's
Right.
hard, you know.
It's hard to beat that. Yeah, it's definitely hard to beat that. So, Clark, you talked about also too about the handling. Why their roosters are so docile and calm. What did you say the reason for that
Well,
was?
the reason with this is the Filipinos spend so much time with them. Like I say, they can afford to hire people. I mean, they just live right there with them. They live right on the farm. Some of those big farms, I tell you, it's got maybe 10, 15, 20,000 out on tie cord.
Mhm.
They'll have little resting stations, that they'll have just like a little hammock setting up in it, and he'll stop so far down the line and just take him a break and drink him a
Wow.
pop, you know. They handle them a lot.
Mhm.
They from the babies on. They spend
Mhm.
so much time with them. Um, they're I hardly ever see any mean chickens over there. You'll see a few, but the majority of the chickens, they've been handled so much, and from since they were born, that they're just so docile and tame.
Right. So
Just
tell
here in
me.
the states, the majority of the cockers, say here in the states, or even a lot of people in Mexico, we got a job to go do. We
Right.
got to go work all day. We come back, we mess around with them once or twice in the evening. I mean, I've got 500 roosters. I don't. I mean, and I don't even. I'm retired, and I
Mhm.
don't even get to pick them up every day. You
Right.
know, but if you got a big team and can afford the labor, it just. I mean, I think that's the biggest difference.
Right. So, Clark, would you say an individual who does have time to spend out there, as far as handling the roosters, seeing how they feel, watching how they act, all that kind of stuff, do you feel as though they definitely got an upper hand? In the
Oh,
reason, yeah,
that's
okay,
all of it. That's all of it. The more time that you spend with the rooster, the better he's going to be, even if you don't know what you're doing. Even if you don't have a whole lot of experience, you're going to gain a lot of that experience by just sitting around and watching him and being with him. And I mean, like I say, the more time you spend with the chickens, the better. Because I've seen a lot of people that's won derbies that I mean, I didn't think that they didn't have a 10% of the experience as me,
hmm,
but they had spent more time with their chickens. Me, I was off on some vacation down in Mexico somewhere, helping somebody that was
hmm,
never going to help me in my lifetime. But I thought that I had a friend or something there, and you
right,
know, but they spent more time with their chickens, and they kicked, they beat me.
right. And so just to continue on that, because I know as a lot of guys always ask this whole obsession about pointing, pointing and keeps and
Mhm.
pointing and keep. Everybody want to know about pointings and keeps. Do you do you
let me
truly?
let me let me tell you about pointing. You
Okay.
know, I mean, and this is what I've learned. I've given them every kind of medicine. I've used every method. I've used this and I've used that. I think it just all goes back to the time that you spent with that rooster on how good he is, and in pointing. Me, I do completely different than and probably 90% of the people. Me,
Hmm.
I'll never change the feed. Everybody likes to change the feed the last 3 days. We want to start giving them rice and popcorn and eggs and all this different stuff. Man, I just don't like to change much on chickens, because anytime that you change his food or his system that you got him on, he starts going down. You know,
So,
and
mhm.
you know, I don't like to do a whole lot of stuff that a lot of people does.
And it's for each his own,
Yeah,
but
each
it's
his
coming.
own. There's a million
It's
ways. There's a
but it's
million
coming.
ways to skin a cat. You
That's
know.
right. But it's coming out of the mouth of a guy who's been successful in 3 different countries over decades, right?
Mhm. Right.
So when you listening to this guy telling you, "Hey, you don't have to listen. You can do whatever."
Right.
But the guy is Clark is sitting here telling you, guys have beat him with less quality foul, but they spent more time with their foul.
Mm-hmm. They was
He
dedicated to their craft. You know.
he honing their skills just like anything else. The guy who
Mm-hmm.
can shoot the fastest gun,
Mhm.
pistol is it's a revolver, it's a 6-shooter, like an
Mm.
old Western, John Wayne's,
Right.
he's in the Guinness book.
Mhm.
It's not a Heckler& Koch or, what I mean, a
Right.
Smith& Wesson. This dude, the fastest man that shoot, because he has honed his craft so
Exactly.
fine-tuned, he can shoot that single action revolver,
Mhm.
faster than you can shoot an automatic weapon. So
Exactly.
that's exactly what Clark is saying. A guy that got less experience than him probably had foul, probably wasn't as good as his, but
Exactly.
he had a deep understanding of the foul that he had in on his yard and in his hands. And I'm reiterating that because we have a culture that's built on everybody's trying to sell you something, everybody has a story behind it, but
Mm.
nobody's selling what Clark is saying. More time you spend with your foul, it will increase your percentages.
They'll
Period.
learn, they'll learn you. You know, you'll learn a whole lot about them. Like I say, just sitting back and watching them.
Mhm.
You just I've learned so much about more probably about that, and then you just go back to the basics. Forget about all these shots
Mhm.
and a lot of this stuff. And I'm gonna tell you something right now.
Mhm.
I will never give a rooster anything the last 4 or 5 days
Mm.
of any meds, any shot, and there is nothing out there that will improve him. I mean, I know I'm probably going to get tackled by 50 different people, but there is nothing out there that make him perform any better than just a straight, naturally conditioned, healthy,
Mhm.
in shape
Mhm.
um, rooster. With a clear minded, excellent condition,
Mhm.
well bred. It don't get no better.
It don't get no better. And to increase your, because you got, that's the rooster part. And then Clark saying on the other part, you also got to hone your skills too, because
Exactly.
what I mean, most people got more rooster on the yard than they are rooster person. I
Mm-hmm.
see people out there with top-notch genetics, but they got elementary understanding. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Oh
And
yeah.
and and I think that plays also a huge role. Not only need to have a healthy, like all those things that Clark stated, but you also got to be on your P's and Q's of understanding, can you understand what that rooster is communicating to you? And you only able to do that if you're out there spending time with them. Period.
Yep. I mean, just like say you got a group of roosters up right now, and you getting ready to show on the weekend.
Mhm.
You know 3 or 4 days out. You
Mhm.
know, like me, I always keep like 50 in the fly pen. Then I'll make my selection and I'll get it down. If I'm going to show 5, I'll get it down to about 15.
Mhm.
And then I'll just start watching those individuals. And one of them, he might not be emptying out the way he should. Stop using the bath. Some roosters won't even use the bathroom when you put them in the keep stalls. They won't use the
Mm.
bathroom until you get them out. Some roosters are fine with that. I mean, and
Mm.
it doesn't matter about the bloodline full brothers can do completely different stuff. Some of
Mm.
them stress out a little bit more, and then you got to watch for those individuals. If you don't watch for those individuals and throw them out, you know, because the hardest thing about winning a derby is putting the group together. Putting a group of
Mm.
warriors that you're going to the derby with together is the hardest thing that's in the chicken business. In showing chickens, if you ask me, putting
Mm.
that winning entry together. I mean, 4 out of 5 ain't no good.
For you got that right. Huh. So that selection process of actually picking the individuals
Mm-hmm.
is one of the hardest aspects in going into a show.
To making the most, just having the strongest group of roosters that you can put together is the hardest. I mean, a lot of people, like I say, don't have that many chickens, or they might
Mhm.
not have whatever it takes to have the 40 or 50 to pick from.
Mhm.
But like I say, there's levels to it.
Right.
Uh, you might not be on that level. You might
Right.
think you are, but you're not.
Right. Right. Hmm. Well, I tell you that you said a mouthful there, and I think it's a lot of guys can take a lot from that, because I think one of the biggest things you also said too was the fact that you have to not only just work on the rooster, but you also got to work on yourself, but
Oh yeah, yeah. I
the
mean, it's
understanding.
Yeah, I mean it's to be super dedicated to this game. You're going to lose out on a lot of family time. You're going to lose out on a lot of different stuff to get to where it takes to be number one. Like I say, a lot of people don't, they don't never see that 24 hours driving on the road. They don't never see, any of this behind the scenes stuff, to what it takes to get to be the best.
Right.
And once you are on top, you got a lot less friends
Hmm.
and seem like you got a lot of haters coming after you, because
Hmm.
they're never going to work as hard as you, never going to put in that dedication. They want to cut corners, and it's a tough road,
Yeah, I definitely is a tough, lonely road. That's the thing
tough lonely
about it.
road.
Yeah, it's not only tough, but it's a very lonely road.
Yes, sir.
Um, so guys, understand that Clark is unpacking a lot of different things that I don't think a lot of guys are really paying attention to. Um, and it goes back to the keeps and the pointing thing. There's an obsession about keeps. There's an obsession about pointing.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you can skin a cat 1,000 different ways. Everything
Right.
is for each his own. People have different experiences. They have tried different things and got different results. Everybody thinks that their way is the best way.
Mm-hmm.
But yet nobody got 100% winning, percentage, but everybody got the best way.
Right.
But one of the things that you can really take from this is it's not about the money aspect and all that, per se, but you really need to focus on also too honing your skills on truly understanding your foul. That will increase your chances with what you already have on the yard without bringing anything extra. Clark is saying that the more time you spend with your chickens and understanding them, the greater your chances of getting that desired result, right?
Yes, sir. 100%. You said you said it perfectly.
So I think that if we would get well, the ones that want to, we can kind of get away from putting all our eggs in this basket of this is the right pointing, this is the right keep, and put more of our eggs in the basket of, again, that 362. How was that chicken when he was 3 months old, 6 months old, 8 months old, 12 months old? How did he act? You know what I mean? What are you practicing on a farm? Are you putting them in boxes and driving them around and seeing if they dropping out or if they not? Like he just said, some won't even drop out in the box. Some of
No.
them will. Some
Mm-hmm.
of them will go to town and they're like, good God, I gotta wash this thing when you take them out the box because they done crapped all over the place. And
Mm-hmm.
Clark is saying some of them won't crap at all in there. This is something that you need to know before showtime.
Mm-hmm.
I said before, this is one of the only sports I ever seen that guys are practicing on show day. Like they trying stuff they never tried ever in their life, and they doing it on in showtime. I mean, what other
Because
sport does that?
a lot of people feels that they have to do something to them, just like my uncle Billy, told me. He's just man. If they're right, they're right. Leave them alone. But
Mhm,
everybody feels that they have to give them a little something or feed them a little more. Or, if you, I mean, you don't have to.
mhm,
They might need. They might if you see them
right,
not doing what. But if they're cranking and doing everything that you see them, you're happy with what you see. Leave them
mhm,
alone. Leave them
right,
alone. They're just like you. They don't fight well on a full stomach.
right,
They don't fight well super empty. You got to find that medium. You got to, pay attention to them. They'll tell you.
mhm,
If you see one standing over there in the corner, all short necked in the drop pin,
right,
and he's not feeling it, throw him out. I don't
right,
care if he's been and this has been the biggest problem we've had, with conditioning roosters during the keep. You got a badass rooster that just dominated the whole keep.
mhm,
But on fight day, you bring him out there and he's humped up, or you can tell he don't feel as good. But they
mhm,
go ahead and put him in there with him because they're already in love with that rooster, and they've
right,
already they've already picked him before the show day. I never pick any of my roosters until the show day, the day
mm,
of, because I mean,
mm,
just like us, I mean, most of the days we feel great, you
right,
know. But some of us wake up on show day,
mhm,
and we're sick. We got the shits, we got the
mhm,
flu, and they put them right on in there anyway,
right.
just because they fell in love and they picked that rooster 2 weeks before, the day of.
Right. So it's really, you making your final selection the day of, and just take your emotions out of it, basically, right? Like
Yeah,
take
you
your
gotta
emotions out.
look, and then we got so many superstitions, and
Hmm.
Filipinos are the worst. I mean, I've got buddies that if they go in and they lose their first one, they'll change their shirt, they'll change their shoes, they won't walk around the same chair. I mean, take all that superstitious shit out because it don't do nothing. Just mess with your head. I mean, you'll really lose it. But we all got those little superstitions.
Right.
But man, it's rough. It'll start wearing on you quick.
You start wearing on you quick. But tell me this, Clark. That's funny. But it's two things I want to talk about, because I want to talk about these hot things, because it's so much trash on the internet of
Mm-hmm.
misconception, and it's all just ego being posted in comment sections. Tell
Right.
me this: what is this deal with this humidity? What your humidity got to be in a cock house, and what your humidity, what the humidity needs to be in a cock house, and that kind of stuff. What is your idea on that?
Well, I mean, for me, humidity. I mean, yeah, we try to pay attention to it. Like, say, you're down in Louisiana and it's 100 degrees. Yeah, you better have your dehumidifier on.
Hmm.
Trying to soak some of that out because a rooster is not snappy when he's real wet. You
Hmm.
know, he don't
Hmm.
have the desired snap.
Hmm.
But most places that I've been to, I wouldn't worry about it too much unless it's just really extreme, like say in a swamp or
Right.
something like that. I would don't pay to. I mean, start with you got to figure the little stuff out before you start getting to the big stuff. You know, don't let the oh my he used the bathroom wet or any of that. Um, I don't pay too much attention to the humidity.
Hmm.
Um, Now I think what you feed them can make them too dry or make them too
Hmm.
wet, and
Hmm.
that's just kind of that was your fault. That
Right.
wasn't because it was 100% humidity outside.
Right.
You know, if I mean, I think it's just got a lot to do with whatever you fed him. The last 3, 4, or 5 days before that on how dry he is or how wet he is, in my
Right.
opinion.
So Clark, do you feel as though that if it's somebody, if it's some things that they would use during the wet or dry aspect, do you think they should be trying that stuff out, like on a farm, to see how they birds react to it?
Oh yeah,
Or
I mean that's the next thing I was getting ready to say. You need to learn these lessons at home because if you learn
hmm
the lessons at the Derby, that's going to cost you a lot of money. You can
right.
point them out and spar them at home, and you
Hmm.
can tell if they're snappy and doing what they need to do
Hmm.
without going to have to put up a $2,000 entry fee and coming home and your wife's about ready to kill you.
Hmm.
You lost the electric bill money and,
Yep.
and, and everything else.
Right.
You can do all those adjustments at home really, really easy.
So like I,
And,
mhm.
I mean, that's it's a
No
lot easier at home.
practicing on game day. Like I
Yeah.
say, I
No
don't
practicing on game
understand
day.
how people practice on game day. There's nothing you're going to do on game day that you could not have tried at your house during practice. No other sport in the world practices on game day. And
No.
it seems like the vast majority of the community practice stuff on game day. I just don't understand that. Like
Or
you
they'll look across and they see Billy Bob over there doing something to his, and then they'll do it to him, and they don't have no clue and no reason behind why old Billy Bob's doing what he's doing.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and then the next thing you know, you're sitting over there scratching your head, and your pockets are empty.
Mhm. So you heard it from me before, but you heard it from Clark. Clark is saying whatever you want to try, you can try that on a farm. You can spar them, you can point them out, you can do all of that stuff on the farm, because hey, guys say, "Oh, you want to dry them out? Get him a couple pellets." Well, if you ain't never gave him pellets before like that, how do you know? Like, you don't even know what you know what the desired result is going to be. You want him to be drier, but how do you know if he's drier? You know what I mean? If you never gave him pellets before, how you know to give him one, two, three, four, five, six, or half of one or whatever? Clark is saying, try all of this stuff at home so you can get the information at home and don't be going out there practicing on game day. Because from your experience, Clark, when people start practicing on game day, do their percentage of winning go up or down?
Way down. You got no chance. And
No
then
chance.
I mean, and then sometimes the weather is really really bad, and then with all this technology today, your phone is the most important thing that you could use. I mean, I've got every place that I show, I've got the weather. I've got that weather that pinned. Whether it's Guadalajara or Manila or wherever, I've got that location on my phone. I can just glance at it. It shows you 10 days out, whether it's going to be raining, whether it's going to be humid, whether it's going to be this, whether it's going to be that. And that's how you adjust. That's how you plan out what your plan may be. And,
Right.
if the plans change and then there's a big front moving in and you see the roosters not doing what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to act, just go ahead and throw them out. Don't go.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, we'll load them up, take them anyway, just because, we wanted to be there. That's not the answer either,
That's not the answer either. Okay, Clark, this is also one thing I want to talk about because you already clarified a lot of it, but I'm just trying to figure out where this stuff is coming from, if it has any validity behind it. Guys think that when they win, their pointing was correct, but when they lose, their pointing was off. How do you feel about that?
Well, sometimes you just get out roostered. So I mean, sometimes you cannot just go out there and dominate everybody every single time. You're going to meet one that you just can't whoop, no matter what you do, how you prepared, what your knife is, what your this, what your that. I mean, you just run into one of them son of a guns. It's just unstoppable. And
that's right.
And to win derbies, you have to draw right. If you're meeting the hardest man in the building 5 out of 5 times, your chances go way down on winning the derby. Like I say, 4 out of 5 ain't no good. They'll get you on one sometimes,
right.
But you just got to do your best and come. If you got any doubt in your heart before you leave the house that you didn't do something right, or you partied on that one Friday night or Saturday night and you forgot to feed them that one time, trust me, all that adds up. And then that's what, that's why you get whooped when you go, If you got any doubt in your heart, you better stay home.
You better stay home. And if you know you didn't do that 362 right, solid discipline, you just might as well cancel it. Because it's really just a gamble. Wouldn't you say? It's just a gamble. If you know you ain't been dragging at holes like you supposed to, ain't been cleaning them water cups, ain't been, doing all the things you supposed to be doing as he's growing older, not just the last 30 days, but as he's going, you allow him to get sick. But yeah, you gave him some meds so he got better, So basically, if they're not, you're also saying that if they're not going through that 362 right, I mean, not saying they can't win, but their chances go way, way down. They got to have a luck of a draw.
That's where the knife comes in, a lot of people that show chickens these days will quit, if it went all back to gaff. Like I say, because you don't have to be there. There's a little bit of a luck factor that comes in the knife. Any rooster, he don't have to be as conditioned in a greatest condition. He don't have to be this. He don't have to be that so much as, like, say, the gaff. But that's really one of the main reasons why the gaff has died out too, because a lot of people don't want to put that work into it. They don't want to, the places that run the shows, at the Derby, the gaff takes a lot more time. The knife is a better gambling sport. That's why kind of the gaff has died out, because it's a lot less work.
Right, a lot less work, and they can get away with a lot.
You can get by sometimes by being not as prepared, but you can't think of it that way. If you're depending on that, you're already lost anyway.
That's right. And when you competing at elite levels, they ain't shortcutting on nothing.
No, there's nobody that's missing anything. I mean, you go to Mexico and you fight in Guadalajara, there's people they got money, they got their program, they got solid roosters, they got the best knives. There's nobody lacking in any area. Side, any area. They, I mean, it's a tough world, and it's like I say, everybody thinks that they're on that top level, but usually they may be, but there's
You'll never know from the couch. That's one thing I do
You'll
know.
never know from the couch,
You
and
can't
I
you
have
can't ever say you top level if you ain't never competed in top level. That's all I'm saying. You
exactly.
know, if you ain't never competed in top level, you can't say you in top level. If your foul ain't never competed in top level, you can't
Right.
say you. The only way you can say that is you have to do it. You
You
know, I
have to
don't
do
care
it.
how many videos you watch. If you ain't never drove an 18 wheeler, I don't care how many videos you watch. If you ain't drove one, you can't say you drive 18 wheelers. Period. That's just that
Exactly.
simple. I don't care who else did it. If you ain't do it, you can't say it. Um, so guys, that I mean, he kind of because that's the biggest thing. I don't know, I guess now we covered the Philippines, we covered Mexico in detail. I think Clark has covered a lot of inside information that to me can save people thousands of dollars and years of time if you really paid attention to the words that came out of his mouth. Um, and I say that because it's coming from somebody who has competed all over, has no invested interest in telling you about vitamins, knives, boots, pointing, all that kind of stuff. He shared a lot of that stuff, but let you know there's a lot of myths that's going around out there. And he's telling you at the top level competition, being international competitor, a lot of that stuff that y'all guys are being told, a lot of that stuff that y'all guys are believing is not necessary. It's definitely not necessary. It seems like he's promoting more of the basics, spending time with your roosters, make sure you're out there dragging that hose like you're supposed to, keeping them things healthy all their life if it's possible, and spending a lot of time with them so you can deeply understand them. Don't be practicing on game day. All of those are jewels. And the reason why I say all of those are jewels, because every last one of the things that I have mentioned has cost people thousands of dollars at one time or another. Thousands of dollars at one time or another. So listen to what Clark said. And that's all the stuff that he talked about. Really, none of that. You don't have to be rich to practice any of that stuff that he just talked about.
No.
You don't have to be rich to practice any of that stuff he talked about. Like he said, it's really nothing special. It's just going back to the so Clark, you pretty much is saying that your base of your program is the basics, huh?
Look, I have, like I say, I teach a few classes from time to time. I have a few
Mm-hmm,
people that, that comes to my house and hangs out
mm-hmm,
with me, and I do some consulting on the phone when I have time.
right,
I on maybe 3 or 4 people per month.
right.
That um, that I teach them how my system,
Mm-hmm,
and a lot of people are surprised. Like, man, well, you don't give them this, you don't give them a shot of that, and you don't use the. I mean, no, you know, um, it's mine is very simple, but it's the very basics, but
mm-hmm,
it's a lot of work,
mm-hmm,
a lot of work from daylight to dark, 7 days
mm-hmm,
a week. All I do is eat, dream. I mean, all it is, my life is all about chickens. I
mm-hmm,
don't have any other hobbies,
mm-hmm.
and I don't do anything else.
Right,
So um, it's my program is work based.
right,
Action based. And
right,
like I said, you got to have some good vitamins. You got to have good
right.
bloodlines. You got to have all
Mm-hmm.
that crap. But they're really surprised on um,
That you ain't pulling out a whole bunch of magic stuff out your hat. Telling you gotta give them this, give them that, give them this, give them that.
right. There's no magical shots. There's no magical anything. It's
Mhm.
just hard work and common sense to take you a long ways.
Long ways. So, before we close out this interview, let's just go ahead and touch on the U.S. back when it was legal.
Uh huh.
Um, obviously back then, Gaff was a big deal. Then short knife came into play. Um, how about this? Is was many guys back then when these other weapons was coming out? Was many guys back then breeding for a particular weapon, or was pretty much everybody just using the same file they had on the yard, just attaching different weapons to them?
No, I mean you. I mean, I'm talking about certain individuals that at the top level
Mhm.
they only bred 2 or 3 different lines. Say Sammy Ramsey and the Gaff. He was one of the best Gaff people. at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and in my area around Kentucky, Lonnie Sizemore, Richmond Sizemore, those guys, they had 3 bloodlines,
Mm-hmm.
and they focused in on those bloodlines, and that's all that they fought was gaff, and well, they might have fought some long knife from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
but they really understood the 3 bloodlines that they had, and they were super successful and being, the best at their time,
Right. Right.
Um, but a lot of people these days, they see, oh, the Doms are winning, so they go order
Mm-hmm.
a trio of Doms, or
Mm-hmm.
they go order the Sweaters are winning. They don't they don't focus in and try to make their chickens better of what they got.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that's one of the biggest deals that a lot of people get so distracted or so mesmerized
And it's
by.
easy, I've done it. Everybody's done it. I've caught myself, going to buying a trio of blues or some shit, when I was younger and a lot less experience I am now, but, and you'll see me use some different colors of white roosters and this and that. I'll
Mhm,
condition some of them for my friends, but
mhm,
I understand their background. I understand I've been around them for 20 years. I
mhm,
know what they need too,
mhm,
but if you're a beginner and you're just starting out, you need to find you like 3 bloodlines that you can trust, and you need to go to work on them.
mhm. Deeply understand them.
Deeply
Um,
understanding them, that unlocks so many different paths and so many doors that you're going to be successful. You're not going to lose.
right, right. And deeply understanding them is the thing that just takes the time of spending time with them. That's really the
Spending
only way to.
time with them, that's the most important thing you can do.
Okay. And that don't cost no whole bunch of money either.
No, no, exactly. You know. So
Uh, uh, so just real quick, you know, um, just want to touch on this keep part. Rotation. Tell me this. Was rotation a result of guys not wanting to work roosters, or was rotation a result of they seen it was more effective than table work, or was it a result of changing of weapons? Like when did
well,
rotation come? Like where did
Well,
that come in?
rotation is very important. Just the
Okay,
reason why, because a rooster needs to have grass every day. He needs some kind of greens every single day,
okay,
so he can get that from out on the tie cords.
mm,
Or he needs to work on his wing power. He needs to be in the fly pins, or he
mhm,
needs to be in a scratch box. He's working on his leg power.
mhm.
Rotation's always been around since the beginning,
Okay,
you know. But
gotcha.
certain families are strong right out of the brood pen.
Mm,
Certain type of hatch families or Albany families or white
mhm,
hackle families, they're naturally strong. They don't have to be worked much. But you take
mm,
like a sweater or a round head or something like that, he might need to be hand worked a little bit to get,
mm,
and then some roosters are just lazy. I mean, I
right.
can go out there in my fly pens. I got 50 up right now. I
Mhm,
can go down through there and look, some of their pens are just tore to pieces. And then
mhm.
some of the pens are just the straw hasn't been moved in 2 or 3 days. You got certain
Right,
individuals that lazy. If you don't hand work them, you're not
right,
going to get anything out of them. And it's
right.
not because of the bloodline or whatever the case. It's just like, there's some sorry individuals just like the rest of us.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
if you don't work them, yeah, they're not ever going to get in shape because they don't work themselves.
That's right. So
So
rotation basically works on birds that will literally work themselves. If they not
right,
gonna work themselves, rotation not gonna be the answer.
rotation ain't going to do anything for you.
Gotcha. So this is my next big question. How does a man who's away from the house 12 hours a day use rotation as conditioning?
Look, that goes back to dedication. When I was in the Army,
Mhm,
I had to be at formation at 5 o'clock in the morning.
mhm,
I'd get up at three,
mhm,
3:30. I'd go out. I'd feed my roosters because
mhm.
it doesn't matter what schedule that you put a rooster on, as long as you stick to that schedule. I'd
Gotcha.
go out there. I had a good cock house. I'll go out there and turn the lights on. I'll feed them. I'll do whatever I need to do with them. And then they expected me. Once you get them used to that season, that schedule, they
Mhm,
expect you at that time.
mhm,
But everybody tells me like, oh, I had to work or I had this, I had that. No, I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be out
mhm,
there dedicated with my chickens, spend a little
mhm,
bit of time for them before I went to work, and I wouldn't get home to 6, 7 o'clock in the evening.
Mhm.
Sometimes I might not sleep 5 or 6 hours a day. There's
Mm.
that, that dedication level. How bad do you want it? Is what it
Right.
what it results in.
Right. So you saying that basically, so because based on your experience, you still can be out there doing what you need to do as far as working all that, and still be able to get your birds in the shape that you need.
Right. And common sense is going to tell you, if you got a guy that he works all day long and he can't spend near as much time with his roosters, you're not going to be as good as the guy that he's got all day with his chickens. I
Hmm.
mean, you're not. I mean, you might think you are, but at the percentage at the end of the year, he's probably going to be better than you,
Mm.
because I mean that's just the basics.
It's just the law of numbers. But the good thing about it is the vast majority of us have to work. So you compete against
Yeah.
somebody who's working just like you.
And
So
then now, like I say, that's why I tell you, a lot of people here in the United States cannot win in these other countries.
mhm,
The reason why, because you can't put the time that they have. You don't have 24 workers. You don't
mhm,
have all day to mess with them, and
right,
that's why it's awful difficult for you to travel to these other countries and win,
right,
because they don't have to pay people, a certain amount of money.
right,
They get away with cheap wages.
right.
So that's another reason a lot of people don't go and win either,
That
in other countries, because we
and
don't
that
have the time that these other people have.
and that talks about one other thing outside of the brood pen, outside of genetics. It takes more than just having good roosters. So you
Yes,
got two guys with good roosters. One guy all day long, the other one got to leave the house 12 hours a day. Who you think
exactly.
gonna be the advantage? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it takes more than just good genetics, and we got to keep driving that into guys' heads, because this sport is multi-dimensional. There is no one aspect. You know what I mean? It's multi-dimensional.
You'll never learn it all. I
Hmm.
mean, you'll never learn it all. And like you say, you need to, start passing this stuff down, because
Hmm.
a lot of people like before me, they would never tell you anything.
Hmm.
I mean, you couldn't have got them on and done an interview for nothing in the world. They
Right.
would have never told you anything that they'd done. And like you say, I think this is a good deal, that like you're doing, to teach, each one teach one. And that's, it's a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what keeps anything alive. You know what I mean? Anything that die off, the previous generation is not helping the next. Just imagine how much stuff that our parents did that we didn't pick up or they didn't push down on us. It's just gone.
It's
You know what I
gone.
mean? It's a lot. It's a
Yep.
lot is just gone, and it's sad because there's still a lot of guys today that won't share any information. You know,
Yeah.
they kind of want to stand under the radar, this, and that, but yet they'll sell chickens to strangers all day long. I don't understand it. I mean,
Yep.
I don't understand how you stand under the radar when you selling chickens to a bunch of strange people. That's not under the radar. But
Right.
again, I just think it just kills the sport when we withhold this information,
Hmm.
then let these people raise themselves in this sport, and then we criticize them. You know what I mean? I'm like, if you didn't teach them, then it's kind of hard to criticize. We had opportunity to teach them better, and you didn't. So that's why I think it's so important with the stuff that you're sharing. And I wanted you to come on because I think it will resonate with a lot more individuals because they're hearing it from a guy who they have seen win in multiple different countries and not just one season and 2 seasons for years.
Hmm.
And you are able to debunk a lot of the myths that's just going around, a lot of the sales pitches and a lot of the war stories and stuff that, guys can't decipher what's true and what's not true because they're not hearing it from somebody who
Hmm.
has traveled internationally. You know what I mean? So when you
Right.
come on here and say, guys, listen, the last week you shouldn't be given anything at all. When
Hmm.
you make your selection, it should be the day of the event. They're not hearing that kind of stuff.
Oh, no, no,
You know what
no.
I'm saying? They're not hearing that kind of stuff. And again, it's worth its weight in gold because it really adjusts a person's whole perspective on what they've been doing. Don't practice on game day. You can do all that pointing at the house. Everything can't compete empty. You got to find that happy medium. See all this stuff I'm just ripping off the top of my head as from what you saying? I'm sucking it all in.
Right.
I'm sucking it all in. And again, guys, it's not about just going to buy another trio. It's not about having the best round heads. It's not about just being the
No.
best at one aspect of this thing. You got to have a whole bunch of things together, you know. And Clark's not on here promoting anything for sale. You know, what he's talking about is brute, hard work, healthy chickens, spending
Right.
time. None of that stuff costs money.
No. A
You know
lot
what
of
I'm
people
saying?
won't do it though. A lot of people
Right.
won't do it, and they get this in their head like, oh, there's that shot that it's going to make them a lot
It's
better
just
on the day
trash
of. It's
information, dude. It's
everybody. Most people are just trying to
trash.
make money from you, and that's the
It's
bottom
just
line.
trash. Right. It's trash. And
Yeah.
and you know, you got people out here that's experts, but you never seen them win anything. You're not seeing them do anything, and they telling you all of this nonsense. And the reason why you don't know it's nonsense because you haven't tried it. See, you
Exactly.
can sit there and absorb all this information, listen to all of it, and in your mind, it can make all the sense in the world. But you know what? When Clark went to the Philippines, his way of doing things made sense until he went over there and found out that it didn't make sense in the Philippines.
Got
He probably,
spanked. You
you see what I'm saying? Exactly. And then he went to Mexico because, you know, you're talking
Yep.
to somebody who's been raised in this sport, who's successful from America's perspective when it
Mhm.
was legal, and then leave out of this sport and try those same techniques that made him successful here. They was
Yeah.
zero effective. I mean, like you said, Louisiana, you took some things and stuff like that, but overall, you
Yeah.
had to learn a whole new game, right?
Whole new system.
So guys, you know, if you take anything from this interview, please watch it again. Each one teach one is all about share this interview with other individuals. You hear it from a guy who's an international competitor. He's not on here promoting anything, not on here selling anything. There's no hidden agenda. What he's telling you don't cost much money. And it seems like he's promoting that guys need to go back to the basics. Like, get back to the basics. Spend more time with your chickens so you can better understand them. So when pointing come up, you can understand what they may or may not need. But if you don't understand your chickens, I don't understand how guys are trying to figure out how to point a chicken when they don't even know they chickens. I mean,
Mm.
can you point a chicken and not even know anything about it?
Not be effective.
That's, you know, that's what I'm saying. I'm promoting about spend that time out there with them chickens. Clark is doing the same thing. He's not on here selling or promoting anything. It seems like he's talking about going back to the basics, keeping an open mind, understanding that you got to be in tune with the local environment, resources, all of that systems. You know, birds are bred based on their weapon and rules. Look at all of this stuff that this man has dropped in this interview. I mean, go back and watch it and listen to it on podcasts, whatever you're doing, over and over and over. And I promise you, all this stuff I could just rip off the top of my head, and you should be able to do the same thing. If you can't rip off the top of your head all of this stuff that Clark dropped in this interview, you need to watch it until you can. But don't practice on game day. You know what I mean? Birds are bred for their weapon and the rules. It takes more than just genetics. You got to look at your environment, spend more time with your chickens so you can better understand them. They don't need a whole bunch of shots. Keep them healthy. I mean, again, guys, I don't know really what else he can share. But Clark, we had 2 hours all over again. I thought this interview was going
Right.
to be an hour. We had 2 hours all over again. Well,
Yep.
listen, Clark, one more time, let the individuals know how they can contact you. And guys, please deal with Clark directly. If you want to know anything about Clark, contact Clark. You don't have to
Yep. I
message
mean,
me.
like I say, and here's another thing too. Actually, if you want to buy chickens from somebody, I'm not saying from me or whoever,
Right.
call and talk to them. Put them on the
FaceTime
FaceTime.
or
Actually
video.
see them, talk to them a
Yep.
little bit. Make sure you're talking to the right person because there's so many different scammers.
Uh-oh. I think Clark, oh, he come back in. Hold on one second.
There.
Okay, you had popped out for a second. So basically, Clark is saying that if you want to, before you buy any chickens from anybody, because it's a great thing to buy chickens. That's no question. There's a lot of great chickens out there. There's a lot of great breeders out there. Clark is saying just make sure you're talking to the right person. I all say the same thing. If they don't want to either video chat, just a verification before you send any money or do anything, you know, you need to see who you're talking to, and also get to know them. But Clark, share that one tip as well as about the value of visiting farms when you are interested in purchasing something.
Well, like I say, you can hit me up on my Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
AKGF or AK-47 Game Farm.
Mm-hmm.
My page. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
Mm-hmm.
And then just send me a message there, and then I'll give you my number and stuff from
Right.
there. Private message,
Right.
and then we can go from there.
Right. So, guys, listen, he just gave you the information, his contact information. If you got any questions, please direct the questions to Clark. There's no need to ask me the question to ask him. You can ask him directly. He just gave you the way to contact him on Facebook. There's three different pages, two different pages that he can
Yeah, two
contact.
different. But you can hit me up on the Instagram. It's AKGF,
Mm-hmm.
or Facebook. It's AKGF,
Mm-hmm.
and then my page is AK-47 Game Farm.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hit me up on any of those three, and then as soon as I get a chance, I try to get to everybody. It might not
Right.
be today or tomorrow, but I'll
Right.
eventually get to you.
Right. And the great thing about this also, guys, we only stream this on YouTube. So all the questions and comments and everything is only on YouTube. So Clark don't have to bounce around to 5 different platforms or 5 different groups to answer any questions. So if you got any questions, post them in the comment section. He'll be able to see them because this is the only place that it was streamed to this evening. And when he get time, he'll get to y'all guys' questions. Clark, I think that's pretty much it, man. It's been solid, man. It's been a solid
Yes.
2 last interviews, man. We talking about over 4 hours of information, guys. I don't really know what else, to add. I really think everybody need to go back and just rewatch these interviews.
Right.
So, Clark,
The main
we're going to go
thing
ahead.
is, just be just be respectful and stay humble and
Mhm.
treat people right, and you'll come out on top at the end.
That's right. So, guys, that is it. We're going to close this show out for this evening. We hope to see y'all guys very, very soon. Please, guys, do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this video at whatever platform you want through WhatsApp, Facebook, wherever you want. The more people that watches this interview, the more education that we can spread around because it's all about each one, teach one. So, y'all guys have a good night. Clark, I'm going to leave with that, brother. I will talk to y'all guys soon. And I hope y'all guys enjoy it. Make sure y'all
All
guys
right.
share it and subscribe. All right. Have a good night, Clark.